Hello, everyone. This is Emilio Tenuta. I want to welcome you, everyone, virtually and in person at CWE 2025 to a session today that we're going to facilitate on a very unique tool that we'd like to introduce and, in some cases, share some glimpses of an upgraded feature that we're going to be releasing in 2026. But I want to give everyone just a few more seconds here to get online. I know people are coming in from other sessions, and I just want to give everyone a few more seconds before we get started. As we wait, I just wanted to let everyone know that we'll be using the chat feature on Zoom to field your questions today as we facilitate the discussion about the Smart Water Navigator. So looking forward to hearing from you as we go through the session. We'll be monitoring the chat. Okay, let's get started. I want to again welcome everyone, as I mentioned, virtually and in person at CWE 2025 World Water Week. It's great to have you with us today. My name is Emilio Tenuta. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Ecolab, and I will be your host and facilitator of our session today. We're here, and I'm joined by a number of other subject matter experts, but we're here today to explore a critical topic on how we can increase water resilience and unlock growth through a publicly available tool called the Ecolab Smart Water Navigator. So this tool is designed to help organizations assess and improve and scale their water stewardship efforts no matter where they are on their journey. And it's about really turning insights into action. And that's what we're going to share with you today on this next slide. So this slide, I wanted to just share a bit more about what we're going to do today. Today, it's all about equipping you as a water user, along with companies, and really on the tools that are available, in this case, the Smart Water Navigator, that can drive insights that you need to navigate the growing water crisis. As climate pressures and economic uncertainty continue to intensify, water stewardship is no longer an option. So it's about being more strategic, which is what we're going to highlight today with a public tool called the Smart Water Navigator, in terms of how we can be more proactive in our journey toward water stewardship. So as you know, the world is at a crossroads. Our work, especially around water, is more critical than ever. And climate change is no longer like a distant threat. It's the reality that we face every day. And so there's a challenge that we see, whether it be floods, droughts, pressures mounting all over the world around extreme weather events, and it's hitting even groundwater especially hard. And so just look at the right side of this chart. The New York Times had an article called "America is Using Up Its Groundwater Like There's No Tomorrow." And it's part of an ongoing series they titled Uncharted Waters that you may have seen. What this the reason this caught my eye is that it really underlined the issue of how the disappearing water across countries around the world is happening. It's a wake-up call. In the US, in this case, groundwater supports about 90% of the water systems, municipal water systems, yet nearly half of the country's monitoring sites have been significantly declining over the last 40 years. In fact, in the last decade alone, 4 out of 10 sites hit their all-time lows. So this is real. On the next chart, we also know that extreme weather events are becoming more of a reality and more frequent and more severe, with real economic consequences, according to NOAA. And so they reported in 2024, and the numbers weren't much better in 23 and 22, that NOAA reported $27 billion climate and weather disasters impacting the U.S. economy as an example. And the challenges continue to grow. Companies are increasingly looking for ways to be more proactive with developing an enterprise-wide strategy that supports resilience and long-term performance, which brings us to our session today. So I'm excited to be joined today by a fantastic group of subject matter experts and presenters from Ecolab and the Pacific Institute, who will help us co-facilitate our session. So from Ecolab, we have Amy Hedblum, Director of Sustainability, and Matea Najberg, Sustainability Reporting Analyst, both key leaders behind the Smart Water Navigator. And from the Pacific Institute, we're joined by Todd Player, Senior Technical Manager and Lead for the Water Action Hub, which you're going to hear about more in a bit. Unfortunately, Steve Bullock is on parental leave and won't be joining us today, but we're grateful for S&P Global Sustainable One's contributions in this work. So here's what we're going to do today. With the help of that team that I just described and introduced, we're here to show how publicly available tools like the Smart Water Navigator can help organizations take meaningful steps towards stronger water resilience and stewardship. We'll walk through some practical examples and show how companies can identify, prioritize, and very importantly, act on water-related risks that directly impact their operations, their supply chain, and their overall business performance. And before we wrap, we'll give you a sneak peek at the AI-powered enhancements coming in March of 2026. You're going to hear it here, team, designed to make the Smart Water Navigator even more intuitive and impactful. So again, a reminder, please share your questions in the Zoom chat. We'll be monitoring them. But with that, I'd like to invite Amy Hedblum from Ecolab to kick us off on grounding us on the current features of the Smart Water Navigator. Amy, over to you.
Thanks, Emilio. I think you clearly laid out the need for such a tool to help drive growth and resiliency in today's environment. And I'm so pleased to join CWE today. My name is Amy Hedblum. I'm Director of Corporate Sustainability at Ecolab. And I'm here to really dig into the nuts and bolts of the platform itself. Again, just reiterating, if you have any questions as we go throughout our discussion today, please send them in through the chat and we'll make sure to have time at the end to address them. Located at smartwaternavigator.com, the platform is available to public users at no cost. Anyone can sign up, and I would encourage those in the audience who do not yet have an account to create one today with simply your email address to go ahead and get started. Whether users are just beginning to identify their baseline water use or are ready to track year-over-year performance, the Smart Water Navigator helps organizations be proactive along each step of setting and executing a water management journey, following a proven 4-step process. The first is identification of risk. It's imperative to understand water's role in your operations, assess your current water use, and quantify water-related risks in financial terms. We understand that it's not just a water bill being the whole story, but there's additional facets to water-related risk that can be quantified. The next is to set targets. Setting sustainable water withdrawal targets is paramount to manage water use risk for the future and to build resiliency even as your operation is experiencing growth. The third step is to take action. The Smart Water Navigator provides users with practical, industry-specific guides to implement solutions to improve water management practices, both at the enterprise, but then also at a site level. And then the last step is to track progress over time. It's important to revisit your action plans and make adjustments based on changing risks or conditions in the market. With the help from industry-leading organizations like S&P Global Sustainable One, the Pacific Institute, the Nature Conservancy, and World Resources Institute, the Smart Water Navigator is continually developed to meet mounting resilience needs of organizations. And ultimately, we understand that tackling water risk immediately and with urgency, businesses can support the more resilient future, even amid their growth aspirations. So we're going to dig into each of these 4 steps a little bit further. Let's start with risk. Once you're logged in as a registered user of the Smart Water Navigator, the first step is to understand your water-related risks at an individual site level. The tool is powered by a few pieces of user input data on incoming and outgoing water volumes, the prices that you pay today, and treatment methods for discharged water. There are 2 ways that users can upload this data. The first is through a batch upload using a downloadable spreadsheet. This option is great for users with many sites. The second way is to input one by one individual facilities. This is best to use if a user is planning to only enter a handful of sites and to walk through the process step by step. Once the data has been entered, risk results are automatically generated. And as we know, many parts of the world, water is undervalued and underpriced. That causes businesses to overlook risks. And so with the Smart Water Navigator, users can actually analyze and monetize these risks across a portfolio of sites. This helps them to identify the holistic water risks based not just on scarcity, but on all facets of water-related risks, including quality, accessibility, reputational and regulatory risks, and escalating water-related climate scenarios like Emilio talked about, things like drought and flood. The cornerstone of these generated risk metrics are what we call water risk premiums, which are proxies for the magnitude of exposure to water risk. And these consider both incoming quantity and quality, as well as outgoing quality-related risks. So let's take a deeper dive into the components of these risk premiums. First, the incoming risk premium is the monetary estimate of the increased price of incoming water, which may be realized by a business as an increase in operating costs. Think of this as the true value of water as compared to what price is listed on your water bill today. The premium considers both the non-market or intangible costs and benefits to a business and society that water provides, along with the tangible costs of a water bill. These intangible costs and benefits include things like human health impacts, environmental impacts, the cost to source water from alternate locations, the domestic valuation, and potential future treatment costs. These values are algorithmically derived using the most robust water risk data sets and valuation models available, built from the World Resources Institute, WRI, and Global Water Intelligence. Similarly, the outgoing risk premium on the next slide is the monetary estimate of the increased price of outgoing water. This may be realized by a business as an increase in operating costs if they're undervaluing the treatment of their discharge water today. The outgoing risk premium considers quality-related factors on human health and the environment alongside potential future treatment costs. And together, the incoming and outgoing risk premiums are additive. They come into one total risk premium. For the Smart Water Navigator, this is really the cornerstone of understanding the multiplier of a site's current withdrawal and discharge costs. Users will also receive their WRI overall water risk score, a revenue at risk score, which takes into account GDP, population density, water withdrawals, and basin level water stress to estimate the revenue that could potentially be lost at a facility. And with these risk outputs all combined, users are able to get a better picture of the full value of water to their facility. If users have a portfolio of sites, say they've got many different industries or different locations, they're able to actually then rank their facilities in order of priority action based on these risk outcomes, based on their water risk premium, revenue at risk, and their WRI overall water risk. So these drive really powerful insights into where to prioritize action. The next step in our 4-step process is on setting targets. After you've identified risk, target setting is really important activity to create a goal at a site level for maximizing sustainable water use. A site's water withdrawal risk informs users if the site is using more water than what is sustainable from surrounding water sources. If the facility's current water use is higher than that current or future sustainable water use amounts, the facility needs to decrease its water use to avoid impacts to its operations from water scarcity. You can also see that the tool can account for any replenishment projects to portray other aspects of smart water management approaches. And this is a first of its kind feature in any public water tool. It allows a facility to auto-generate this sustainable absolute water target based on baseline water stress and current water use practices. This is an extremely powerful insight for sites who may have corporate water targets, but are not sure how to translate those ambitious goals into manageable and location-specific targets. I want to give you a couple examples of how these outputs come together. I think that these will help bring this methodology to life and really deliver situational sector-specific insights. So let's first take a look at this example. This is a fluid milk manufacturer in Jakarta. This is essentially a dairy, right? Their location by WRI standards is experiencing high water stress and overall high water risk. They have a really high population density in this area as well, very metropolitan, and their combined risk premium, as you can see on the top here, over 5 times what their water bill indicates, is showing that they have a high dependency on water for their operations. What's driving these metrics? For what the water risk premium, we see that current undervaluation of water in the region. So actually underpricing what they're paying, both from sourcing and treatment costs, is really the contributing factor to driving up their overall water risk premium. High baseline water stress and, again, that extremely high local population density are also contributing to that higher risk premium. There's more competition for water, which increases the domestic value for this resource. But when we look at their sustainable water target, you can see here on the bottom right-hand side of the slide, the manufacturer is actually well within their bounds of sustainable water use. So even though they're undervaluing and have a higher water risk premium, how are they not seeing that they need to reduce water use? Well, we typically see water-intensive industries located in high levels of water stress and competition have a higher amount of water risk. When we create this sustainable annual water withdrawal, it's calculated to help the basin as a whole achieve a less than 40% risk threshold of baseline water stress. For this case, we're seeing the effect of sector specificity come in. So for a fluid milk manufacturer, they're actually using the appropriate amount of water that's allocated to their operations to do their part to minimize risk to the whole basin. So ideally, they could reduce water withdrawal slightly, continue to monitor water issues, and invest in smart water management techniques when the return on investment is there. But due to their sector and their water use allocation, they're actually well within their bounds with their current water withdrawal volume that you see here, almost about 500,000 cubic meters. So in this case, we're seeing, hey, we probably need to factor in the true value of water when we're creating investment scenarios for water solutions, but we're using water wisely in our operations today. So this presents different action plans that the organization could take. Let's look at maybe a flip side of this example. This time, we're going to look at a data center located in Los Angeles, California. We know that this industry is booming, using more water through AI than ever before. And this presents a unique opportunity for us to understand where efficiencies in water use management could come from. This one, again, is in Los Angeles, California. And this region actually properly values their water. They're setting prices based on more holistic costs. That proper valuation minimizes their overall water risk premium. You're seeing here, it's just under less than 1 time their current value of their site's water bill. But they're experiencing extremely high baseline water stress in this region, as well as high local population density. These two factors, paired with projected rising water treatment costs on the effluent side, are contributing factors to this higher risk. And particularly given the industry's increasing dependence on water, we're seeing that their revenue at risk is relatively high. It's up at about 80%. In this example, we're seeing that the operations have a high dependency on the water used to their facility, and given extremely high baseline water stress, they have a high amount of their revenue at risk. We're also seeing on the sustainable water target that extremely high baseline water stress condition is playing a bigger role. Remember, the sustainable water withdrawal target is calculated within the tool to achieve a less than 40% risk threshold for the baseline water stress. So at an extremely high value of greater than 80% risk, getting that down to 40% presents real challenges to organizations in that water basin. This is particularly true for water-intensive sectors like we see with data centers. So this example really has their work cut out for them. How are they going to tackle a large required reduction? Well, the Smart Water Navigator can help. We know that generation of industry-specific action plans are probably the next step that this user will want to take. And that brings us to step 3, taking action. Once a site has set a target, it's time to start implementing changes, primarily achieved through water-saving solutions. But many times, organizations aren't really sure where to start. Many companies struggle to execute their water targets because they lack practical tools and insights to build smart water management practices at an individual facility level. This is not just about setting enterprise goals and governance structure. This is actually about doing the work at a site level. And so a user within the Smart Water Navigator can make their way through a simple assessment that focuses on 4 facets of smart water management: site management, water use practices, target setting, and water stewardship practices. Anyone at the facility with a basic understanding of their water use and management should be able to complete this simple and straightforward 13-question qualitative assessment. And after completing the questionnaire, a site is placed on what we call the water maturity curve, which you see on the slide here. This curve helps users to make their way from untapped, if they have yet to adopt smart water management practices, all the way up the curve to becoming water smart, where they're instituting best-in-class solutions and strategies to not only work within their facility and within their 4 walls, but also with users outside of the fence line. Ultimately, the tool provides industry-specific guides to smart water management solutions that include checklists, it includes tools, resources, case studies, and strategies for making the business case for investing in water projects. Again, both within their facility, but also outside their fence line. If a site follows this roadmap, they can begin steadily increasing their resilience to climate change and water scarcity through smarter water use. And in just a moment, you'll see some exciting investments from Todd and Matea that are making these collaborative efforts with other users in a water basin even easier through the Smart Water Navigator. We know that driving collective action and engagement is just as important as water efficiency programs within a facility. And so the Smart Water Navigator helps users to work together and utilize water resources sustainably. I'm not going to steal the thunder here, so I'll just give that little sneak peek as I move to the next slide to describe the last step of the Smart Water Navigator journey. Finally, a Smart Water Navigator strategy is ongoing and cyclical. This is not a one snapshot in time activity. It's important for users to really complete the 4-step process by understanding their performance over time. Entering in facility data year over year in the Smart Water Navigator actually generates automatic charts of performance over time. This helps users to understand their progress against their goals and continually reassess their operations for new risks and growth opportunities. The tool generates this visualization. You can see here just a snapshot of what users see of incoming, outgoing, and consumptive water use over several years to assess the interdependence among their production volume, their revenue, and water use all at one facility. As you can see, there's really powerful outputs of the tool that are generated by just a few pieces of information. I think any manager at a site will be able to use this tool. And then from an enterprise perspective, this helps to provide insights at a sustainability office or safety, health, and environment position to help drive strategic decision making. Sharing these outputs is easy. I want to assure those on the call today that there's multiple reports. You don't need to be an expert in using the tool to relay the information and insights that are developed. There's multiple reports you can generate in PDF or spreadsheet formats that help users share and relay information across their teams and organization, with the ultimate goal of prioritizing action on water use efficiency and collective action on water issues. This is all in support of an organization's goals to drive growth, to build resilience, and to provide a better future for their business and communities. So with that high-level overview, I'm going to welcome Todd and then further Matea into the conversation to talk about some exciting upcoming developments for the Smart Water Navigator that really place that resiliency piece front and center in a business's growth strategy. So Todd, please.
Thank you, Amy. What a great segue to talk about collective action and how it relates to the Smart Water Navigator and the work that we do at Pacific Institute through the CEO Water Mandate. I want to introduce the Water Action Hub on the next slide. But before I do, let me introduce myself. Todd Player is the Digital Technology Lead at Pacific Institute, primarily focused on our flagship here, the Water Action Hub. Now, some of you may already be familiar with the Water Action Hub, but for those of you that might not, it is a little bit over a decade-old platform that was designed to connect corporate sustainability professionals to specific opportunities in areas where you might want to take action because of some of the risk that Amy just covered in those two locations that she highlighted. It was funded in partnership between the UN Global Compact and Pacific Institute, and it tracks projects, initiatives, and organizations globally around water issues. The Water Action Hub is free to use. It's always been free to use and always will be free to use. And you can see a little bit of the success near the bottom. A little bit over 2,200 projects that are part of the Water Action Hub. Over 1,700 organizations have signed up with over 7,300 locations globally. And you might ask why? Why is this important? And it's really because the act of simply knowing who is present in what parts of the world and what types of projects are available for investment to take action is a huge problem. In fact, as I go about meetings and presentations, it's one of the most often cited problems I hear about when talking about barriers to taking action on water issues. But I want to introduce the Water Action Hub today on the next slide. The Water Action Hub today is much more. Through the CEO Water Mandate and our Water Resilience Coalition, it's now a network of digital tools for corporate water stewardship. You can see them all here around the screen, but they don't just apply to companies. For example, our NBS Benefits Explorer tool allows anyone to learn and value the activities and benefits that accrue from nature-based solutions investments, and this is cross-sector. It has three main areas around activity benefit mapping, forecasting potential valuations and benefit accrual, and evaluation component that allows you to understand what a investment would yield from a return on investment with 9 different habitat types that are available. We also have our collective action basin hub. This is our newest application that we've released and is the curated one. It's the primary digital tool for our collaborative model to help drive action in our 100 priority basins, which you can kind of see in the map on the right-hand side of the slide there. These basins are designed or were selected based on a bunch of different criteria, but in areas where collective action to really help address water risk issues and water security issues is most urgent. And we set up a collaborative model to help engage in these basins, which is a multi-stakeholder model for basin engagement. It has 8 key elements, which starts with a basin champion, someone to really ignite early activity in these areas to get people together. We document shared water challenges that exist because we know not all challenges exist in the same basins and basins have different priorities. We then take a look at how we address some targets to meet these challenges. An example of that, we're active in the Mississippi River currently, and we established a target of 24 million acres under stewardship to address nutrient and other water quality issues. Now, that's a lot of acres, and it takes a project roadmap and a portfolio, a big one, to address that size of a target. And so we do that as part of this process as well. And this is where the curated projects, what we call the project portfolio, exists in our basin hub, so that you can come in and be able to see what projects are available and understand where impacts can be made. And then we pair that with monitoring and impact tracking on the backside. You don't want to make an investment in a project if you can't understand what are the impacts, what are the volumetric benefits, the water quality benefits, so forth, and then understand what is the changing situation in the basin. Currently, we have collaboratives that are active in 9 of our 100 priority basins, with several more by year's end. These include locations in the US, Mexico, and India currently, with basins in Africa and Europe very near coming online with some of these activities. We also host websites on the Water Action Hub for each of these collaboratives, and these websites are where we make publicly accessible basin health data available to anyone with an interest. We want to remove information asymmetries around water and make data available for free. We also have publicly accessible impact data to understand what is the volume of water that the corporate investors who have invested in various projects are making to the basin. What does that contribution look like? And then finally, our latest piece of work is around basin monitoring. And this is a satellite-based global river basin monitoring system. We have a partnership with the European Space Agency with funding support from Ecolab and Global Water Challenge to help build this out. And I'm excited that we will soon be releasing the first basins to come online with this satellite-based system in September. This also further helps us eliminate disparities in water data as we track different health indicators of basins across time. We can monitor things like surface water extent, different water quality parameters, and we'll make this data available to anyone for free. It helps us understand changing basin health conditions over time. Are the actions we're taking having a positive impact in the basin in the way that we want? And it also helps us understand the geography of the basin, and are we targeting the right areas within the basin for projects that we might be undertaking? And if we go to the next slide, I want to draw some connections with the Smart Water Navigator here and how the two are related. There are multiple ways to get involved with the Water Action Hub and our digital tools and the collaboratives that we have. And the connection with the Smart Water Navigator is one. The CEO Water Mandate and the Water Resilience Coalition focus is on those 100 priority basins that you see there on the left, which is to accelerate action on water in those areas. And the Smart Water Navigator has the focus at the facility level. But all those facility levels are part of a larger basin. And sometimes the best solutions are not at the facility location, but they may be upstream a little ways or even downstream a little ways. It's about getting out and engaging with the broader community in a basin and understanding where action and activity on the ground can have the biggest and best impact. And so using APIs and a new data sharing agreement, we'll soon be able to share the project portfolio in the Smart Water Navigator so that as you register facilities and want to understand what opportunities exist, to engage in collective action, those features will be right there available to you in the Smart Water Navigator. And these are just some of the partnerships that we're working on with the Water Action Hub. And so I invite you to go to wateractionhub.org and check it out and get involved in collective action near you. And I think if we go to the next slide, I'm happy to turn it over to Matea to dive in a little bit deeper on Smart Water Navigator features.
Sounds good. Thank you, Todd. Hi, everyone. My name is Matea Najberg. I am a sustainability reporting analyst on the corporate sustainability team at Ecolab, and I'm excited to be here with you all today. We have a variety of features under development currently that will provide users with additional insights on their water-related risks, water management priorities, and collective action opportunities, like Todd alluded to in his section. And today I'm going to be walking you through 3 of those features. The first feature is matchmaking for collective action partners. So when we think about net positive water impact, one of those elements is collective action. So we know that the Smart Water Navigator can be an important step in identifying priority operations and facilities across a business enterprise. Once a user understands those priority sites, they can then use this new functionality that we're building out in collaboration with Todd's team to identify collective action opportunities in those basins that they operate in. So if we want to dive a little bit deeper here into some of these new features, we have a priority basin flag and a collective action projects tab. So the priority basin flag alerts a user that their operation is located in one of the Water Action Hub's 100 priority basins, and what that means in terms of both water risk and water opportunity. We then provide users a direct link out to that Basin Collaborative landing page in the Water Action Hub, where they can find out more about water challenges in that basin, ongoing initiatives, the impacts of those initiatives, and much more. So that's the priority basin flag. For the collective action opportunities tab, this is a feature in Smart Water Navigator that provides Smart Water Navigator users with a high-level overview of active collective action projects in the priority basins that they're operating in. So users within the Smart Water Navigator can see the specific location of that project, other companies and organizations that are involved. And then for more information, they can link out to the Water Action Hub once again. So that's what you're seeing on the right side of the screen here. And those project pages have more detailed information about contact information, project status, volumetric benefits, and much more. So overall, while this new functionality in the Smart Water Navigator has not yet been released, as Amy mentioned, there's already a lot of features and a lot of opportunity in Smart Water Navigator to identify your priority sites based on, water risk, water maturity, growth projections. And as Todd mentioned, the work in the Water Action Hub is very much ongoing. So we encourage you to visit the Smart Water Navigator to start to identify your priority sites, and then visit the Water Action Hub to identify collective action opportunities in those basins, or to input any projects that you're actively working on to try to find additional partners for that work. The second feature that I'd like to cover are predictive analytics for water risk trends. So we know that severe weather occurrences, whether it's flood, drought, or other water stress conditions, are becoming more frequent, and that these can have big impacts on business operations. In fact, according to the World Economic Forum, by 2035, climate hazards are projected to drive between $560 and $610 billion in annual losses for listed companies. Up until now, the Smart Water Navigator has relied on industry standard datasets that look at historical averages to predict current and future water risks. But as I mentioned, water and climate are continuing to evolve ever more rapidly, and we know it's more important than ever for businesses to be able to understand their real-time water risks. So as a result, we are building out these predictive analytics that draw upon new data sets, including satellite imagery that can provide more real-time information about water risk conditions at a facility at any given time. So how this comes to life for users is first through these alerts that you're seeing here. So we have a drought alert and a flood alert. So that basically lets a user know that one of their facilities could be experiencing an extreme weather condition and encourages the user to take immediate action to mitigate that risk. And then from there, users are able to model what that extreme weather condition would do to their water risk. So they can compare their water risk in a business as usual scenario compared to with this extreme weather condition, and see the impact that that would have on their risk profile. So overall, we are really excited about this new functionality that bolsters the already robust data sets of the tool with more real-time actionable insights for users. Final feature that I would like to cover is smart recommendations for priority sites. So we know that there are a lot of facets to water risk past just water withdrawal, water discharge, water quality and quantity. And so we're currently working to integrate new data sets into the tool that cover additional facets of water risk, whether that's water access, flood, nature and biodiversity, or other factors. And so as the Smart Water Navigator is able to provide more comprehensive risk information to users of the tool, we want to make sure that there continues to be really clear, actionable insights for users based on their risk profile. So you can see here that we are adding in this functionality that explains the primary drivers of risk for a given facility to a user. So if we look at this example, for instance, this facility's risk profile is primarily driven by flood risk. So as you can imagine, flooding can cause costs for businesses as they need to shut down during a flooding event. And then following the flooding event, there could be cleanup and repair costs. An emerging risk for this facility is also water access, sanitation, and hygiene, which is, of course, an important consideration given the importance of wash services to both the employees of a company as well as the surrounding communities. So once a user understands this risk profile that is primarily driven by flood and wash risk, they can then click this Take Action button to be taken to that facility's checklist. And that checklist is already targeted to that facility's industry and their level of water maturity. And so what users can do is they can check actions off as they are taking them. So those actions might be things like routinely monitoring water use with respect to climate and biodiversity, or ensuring that all employees at the facility have access to wash services. So when users check those actions off, they can then see the impact that that has on their risk profile. And that can either be used as a modeling feature. So if users want to see, if I take this action, how would that impact my water risk at the facility? They can do that. Or they can also see and track their reduction in water risk over time as a result of actions that they are taking. So overall, the outputs of the Smart Water Navigator are always designed to provide actionable insights to users at the facility level. So whether it is these new features that I just walked through or the existing functionality and the four-step process that Amy introduced, we know that the Smart Water Navigator can provide valuable insights to users regardless of what industry their business is in, what stage of water maturity they're at, or what their water management priorities are. So once these features become available, we encourage you to check back to the Smart Water Navigator and see the additional insights that the tool can provide. We are also developing additional AI-enabled features that we are really excited to roll out to users very, very soon. So with that, Emilio, I will pass it back over to you for some closing remarks.
Wow. Thank you, Matea. What an amazing set of future upgrades that are coming for the Smart Water Navigator in March. Thank you for sharing that. And Todd, thank you for that overview of not only the Water Action Hub and its functionality, but also the coming capabilities that the Pacific Institute has been investing in from a digital experience and insights that will provide. Amy, thank you for grounding the current tool and what we're able to do today, which takes me to what I want to address, some of the questions that I've been monitoring in the chat as you all have been presenting. First and foremost, there will be a recording of today's session that will be available that includes the content and the great discussion we've just been having through our presenters. So, and then there are some questions, for example, and I'll take a few of these and then I'm going to ask the team on the call today to also address some of these questions. So let me start off. Within each organization, who are the designated teams using the tool or responsible for using the tool? And I would say that what we've seen is, and Todd and Amy both alluded to this, as corporate sustainability practitioners for sure in the corporate space, water leads, as they're referred to, and in some organizations, it may be the safety, health, and environmental teams that are responsible for the environmental risk profile of their locations. We also, depending on the material risk, it could be the global supply chain team supporting the manufacturing locations in the regions. Another question that came through was the type of organization using the Smart Water Navigator, and I will combine that with another question, which is, can the Smart Water Navigator be used in agriculture? So first and foremost, any company of any size or water user can leverage the benefits of the Smart Water Navigator, and I would argue the same goes for the Water Action Hub. And so we do have a large number of multinationals using the tool to support their corporate water strategy, but big or small, Smart Water Navigator can add tremendous value and insights to be a companion tool to supporting your strategy. As far as agriculture, yes, the tool is designed to be industry agnostic. So its core features such as assessing water risks, setting context-based water goals, developing specific action plan culture as well, and whether you're using it in both intensive and variable depending on geography or the crop type. It is a really good tool to assess the risk, but also set meaningful target food and beverage processors that to support the plans that they're putting together. Another one, I'm going to go to Matea and Todd on this one. Once I create an account within the Smart Water Navigator and the Water Action Hub, can you provide some more insights of what you need to enter into the tools? Please, Matea, why don't you start?
Yeah, Amelia, you were cutting out for me a little bit, but I think you're asking, once you set up a profile, what are the next steps from there? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I think Amy alluded to this a little bit with the batch upload and the individual loading in of facilities, but basically that is where you would start with the Smart Water Navigator. So depending on if you have one facility, you can do it individually. If you have many, you can use the batch upload feature, but there's just a handful of required inputs, including water withdrawal and discharge, quantities and prices. So we try to keep that at really minimal required inputs. And then from there, once your facilities are into the tool, we would recommend that you look into some of the enterprise features that allow you to see your facilities across your enterprise. So you can compare them based on factors like risk, growth, water use, production volumes. And so once you can do that, you can start to identify those priority facilities that you want to focus on first. And that is when we recommend that you just dive into some of those facility level features that Amy covered to understand the risk, the target setting, taking action at those priority facilities.
And for the Water Action Hub, it's as simple as an email address and a password to get started with the basics. Then we also invite you, if your organization does not have a profile in the Water Action Hub, to create a profile for your company or your organization fill out a few basic details about that, and then we invite you to search the 100 priority basins. Find out what's going on, what the opportunities are to engage through either the collaboratives that we have or even in bilateral projects that might be of interest to you. And finally, you can also share your locations. If you have priority locations in particular geographies that are of importance to you and you want others to know that you're interested in those areas, you can share your locations. And then as we curate and begin to engage collective actions in these different areas, we'll recognize that you're there, and there may be an opportunity for us to reach out and potentially connect and say, would you like to get involved in our activity in this basin?
I see Emilio may be having troubles connecting. One of the other questions that we typically receive as well is about the underlying data sets. And so one of the areas that we have, taken painstaking expertise in evolving is making sure that we're working with best-in-class partners to provide the most updated data on water scarcity, water stress, and water pricing. So some of the information that I talked about in the current capabilities of the tool was around the data sets. And so we use the WRI Aqueduct to provide a lot of information on baseline water stress and water risk, but we also partner with Global Water Intelligence to understand the trends in water tariffs around the world. And so we're looking at every country and down to a metropolitan or municipality level is understanding the trends of those water pricing models and projecting those out based on historical trends. Another partner that we work closely with is the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, on their water risk filter. We use that input particularly for quality level information. And then also S&P Global Sustainable One. S&P Global is known for their research and data around environmental topics. And so we actually collaborate with Sustainable One to identify several proprietary data sets around water, nature, wash, and climate to fuel a lot of the insights and risk outputs of the tool. I wanted to make sure that the audience kind of understood where a lot of this insight was coming from. And we also do have a very robust methodology document available on smartwaternavigator.com that dives into even more depth about the data sources, the calculations, and algorithms that are powering the tool. We feel this methodology is an extremely important component to providing transparency on how risk metrics and targets are derived, and to help you work with stakeholders internally and externally on using these outputs in decision processes. With that, I think I've been monitoring the chat and I don't see any other questions at this time. So with just a few minutes left, we'll give you time back to get to your next session. Thank you so much on behalf of Ecolab, S&P Global Sustainable One, and the Pacific Institute for joining us today. A recording will be made available after this session. And please reach out to your CWE representative if you have any other questions. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.